Okay, so I'm talking with, let's just introduce yourselves. This is about the film Gook.
Yes. My name is Justin Chon.
Simone Baker.
David So.
Okay, and Justin, tell us about the basic story of the film.
Yeah. Gook is about a film about two brothers, Korean American brothers, who run a women's shoe store in the city of Paramount, and it just goes through their life during and the film happens during the first day of the LA riots after the Rodney King verdict, and it's about their relationship with a neighborhood 11-year-old African American girl played by Simone Baker.
Mm-hmm. Now, LA riots are kind of interesting. I don't think I've seen many films based on the LA riots, and it seems like a lot like in your film, the LA riots are more of a background or backdrop to your film.
Correct. Yeah.
What was it about that time? I guess we're celebrating, celebrating. This is like the 25th.
I don't think it's a celebration.
I wouldn't necessarily. But it is the 25th anniversary.
Yeah.
And also, I don't think, I think the Korean American community was kind of the lost player in the riots.
Yeah. David and Simone probably can get so sick of hearing this because we're doing press day today, and they're gonna hear about my life story forever. But no, my dad had a business in Paramount, right across the bridge, the 710 bridge on Rosecrans from Compton. We got looted the last day, so we have my family has very personal sort of experience with the riots. But as it pertains to the riots as a whole, there hasn't been many standalone films about it. You watch like Straight Outta Compton, there was like a tiny segment that talks about it, and there's films that will be coming out, but none from the Korean American perspective. But the interesting thing about this film is it's just as much an African American film as it is a Korean American film. So I think it's just a unique sort of take on that event, and it's more the riots is more of a backdrop to allow for the the social climate and the sort of what do you call it, the tension that was present during that time.
Mm-hmm. Now, you wrote and directed the film. What kind of dance were you kind of playing? We're kind of in a politically correct time nowadays, and it's hard. I would imagine it's hard to write a real story that involves, racial tension, basically.
A big thing is with this type of story, what is the purpose of it? Mm-hmm. And my purpose is, it's at its core, it's a film about friendship, but the last thing I wanted to do was alienate people, So if you watch the film, there's no real. I try not to, as much as I can. I try not to preach, and I try not to take sides. So when you watch the film, it's very neo-realistic, mm-hmm. And I don't put judgment on people, and everybody gets their fair share of screen time. Mm-hmm. So and if you notice, everybody's angry. Yeah. No one's more angry than the other. Everybody has sort of struggles with their lives, and that's more what I wanted to focus on rather than you're right and I'm wrong, and I'm right and you're wrong, because the film should build empathy for both, for all the communities in those affected areas. And touch upon like what they were feeling at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, definitely the film there's no good guy, there's no bad guy. It's people who are confronted with tough choices to make and circumstances that test their character.
Yeah, and that's as a writer, that's extremely a fine line and very hard line to ride, because you really because for it to be a film though. Mm-hmm. There's certain elements and structural things that you have to put in place for people to stay on board. It can't just be them just bantering the entire film. There needs to be plot points for there to be like sort of course for the audience to follow. Otherwise, you'll lose them. So that was very difficult to kind of navigate.
Okay, well, let's talk characters now. Simone, why don't you tell us about your character and and what the struggles that she faces in this film?
Well, as you know, she is an African American girl who likes to hang out with these two Korean brothers, which is basically the summary of the whole entire movie. But she's a sweet, sensitive person, but she tries to hide that on the outside because of the rough things that she's been going through and the life she lives in at home, and it's not, it's not good for her, and that's why she likes to hang out with these the brothers, because they help her. She feels like she's with actual family. She feels happy with them. It's very fun with them and cool.
Okay. Well, let's talk about how did you get involved in the project?
Well, I have to give credit to Mr. Fernando Pullum because he told me about the film that they were doing, and he told me to audition. And the first time they actually met me is Mr. Pullum pulled me to the side, and he had them sing for me. He had me sing for them, and that's kind of how the process just started. Mm-hmm. And then I auditioned, and actually I auditioned on my birthday, and they got back to me on my birthday, so I was very happy about that.
And was that here in LA, or was that
Oh yes, it was in LA. Okay.
Now let me ask you about your career. I guess I'm always impressed with child actors, the ones that, I'll call it Disney Channel actors, the ones that are a little over the top, but your performance is very down to earth. How did you approach your role, and what kind of training did you have to pull the role off?
Well, I didn't necessarily have training, but I did get a lot of good tips from the director Justin and the producers, and also my mom kind of did a little training for me. So she kind of guided me to where I had to put my character focus in, and I had to work myself on getting into the character. So I had to kind of act like the character for a couple of days, but I did not cuss. I didn't. I didn't.
Not too much method acting then,
No.
or preparation. Can you speak to casting children, or what was it like finding Simone ultimately?
Yeah, you mentioned the Disney sort of actresses, and we saw a few, and they were just too polished. Mm-hmm. So we got a tip actually from Danielle, one of our production coordinators, that they had casted something out of Fernando Pullum Art Center. It's at South Central in Leimert Park. And so we went there. At first we called a lot of African American churches in the greater Los Angeles area, but it just took a while. And so we went to Fernando Pullum, and we saw they were preparing for a play. So all running around, and I saw Simone, and immediately she had a gravitational pull. Mm-hmm. And after we heard her sing, we're like, okay, we left that day being like, okay, that's, she seems very interesting. And then we held auditions, and she just killed it. And then, me and Simone just spent a lot of time together. We just hung out a lot. We talked about stuff. We would skateboard, in the parking lot. And we just hung out, and to me that was the most valuable time.
Yeah, and that definitely comes across in the
mm-hmm.
the movie.
Yeah, and it's just, I think it's a lot of it's building trust, and trying to help Simone build confidence and be comfortable so that it's a safe environment. She knows that we're going to be there for her, and not like put her in some really dangerous situation. Because the film, as you saw, there's a lot of dangerous stuff that happens. So yeah, that's basically what happened with Simone.
Okay, let's go to David here. Tell us about your character.
I think Daniel is just like a representation of a lot of like early 90s, late 80s kids. You know what I mean? So I think like growing up to like, there's like a perception of like what Asian kids are. You know, it was like the geeky kid with the glasses, but I grew up with a lot of gangbangers. You know what I mean? But you know, what I mean? But you know, not that Daniel's a gangbanger himself, but he has like dreams and aspirations outside of what normal people would think at that time of like a young Asian kid. You know, are you going to run your parents' store? But really, at the end of the day, it's like I don't want to do what my parents want to do. You know. So for my character, you know, I obviously wanted to be an R&B singer, you know, and at that time too, a lot of young Asian cats, they wanted to be musicians. They wanted to be rappers, you know, they wanted to do like stuff in the arts as well, which was me growing up. Like I really did want to be an R&B singer, you know, at the time. And it's kind of interesting because his character also, you know, with Justin's character, he didn't play really more of my brother. He was more like a father role. You know, which happens a lot, like in Asian families too, where if the older brother has like a big age gap, that older brother is actually dad. Yeah. So the older brother can actually ground you, you know, tell you to go to your room and tell you to do your homework and stuff like that. But basically, the character is just kind of like struggling in between, like understanding, like he doesn't really understand his older brother, who is like his father figure, which a lot of Asian American kids go through. You know, they don't understand their parents' plight, why they do things the way that they do, and with Daniel too, he also has like I said, dreams outside of that, but his older brother doesn't understand that, you know. So he thinks that doing that is kind of him being selfish. And so my character, basically, I just call him. He just gets his ass whipped throughout the whole film, you know.
Yeah, you get beat up a lot.
Yeah.
So so I was reading your bio, and you do a lot of YouTube.
Yeah.
So how does this project fit in with, I guess, your career path or where you like to take things?
I mean, you know, it's I don't know if it really aligns with the things that I do with YouTube. I think like those two are, it's similar, but it's very separate. You know, this is.
But in terms of creative output and.
Yeah, I mean, since I started YouTube, like YouTube was something that I wanted to use as a platform to go somewhere else. You know, at that time for me, it was for me to become like, in my mind, like I want to be like the biggest stand-up comedian on earth. But slowly I started to realize like stand-up comedy wasn't something that I really loved to do. And it's actually like film and acting was something that I really enjoyed. So I actually met Justin through YouTube. So at that time I had him do like a small sketch with me that we met through other friends. And then that's how we got connected. And this is, Gook is kind of like my way of just kind of diversifying what I can do. And it because like, when you're on YouTube, there's like a certain type of expectation that people have out of you, right? So because I've been doing comedy for so long, they don't expect me to go into a serious role. They don't expect me to branch out of this space. So for me, Gook, the film, was like to kind of show like I got some chops, you know.
All right, great. Let's go back to Justin here. Let's see, we just got a few minutes here, but the last time I talked to you, we were talking about your film Man Up. Which is, I think it's still on Netflix now. That Gook is a very different film than Man Up. Man Up's a
What are you talking about? It's pretty. I thought it's pretty similar.
Kind of, except yours, Gook is in black and white, and Man Up's in color.
I'm kidding.
Yeah. So, very different film. What were some of the challenges in terms of, or what was the challenge that you put in front of yourself to make this film?
I mean, I've as an actor, I've been on so many sets, you know, so that's sort of my school. But when you put into action, you gotta practice. So, you know, I mean, I've done tons of shorts. I've done a lot of experimental shorts that no one will ever see. But Man Up was a good sort of practice run, and you know, it was low sort of. Not pressure, but low sort of stakes, because it was like a stoner comedy, you know. But I got to work out a lot of kinks. I got to learn how to work with people, like work with a lot of different personalities. So, and I love that movie, you know, whether other people find it amusing or not, I still, you know, stand by it, and, you know, if I didn't do that movie, I would not have been able to make Gook the way I did. In terms of challenges, I think it was just as it pertains to doing Gook or doing Man Up first. It was just like a progression, you know. So whether it's acting or directing or writing, you know, it's constantly. It's a lifelong endeavor. It's art, you know, and I don't think artists ever stop creating. And I'd like to continue to make films and act and write, and I don't think I need to be limited to one category, but it's a work in progress.
Yeah. I mean, the worst thing for an artist is to not create.
Yeah, and I think creating out of fear is the worst. Mm-hmm. So if you're like, with Gook, I wasn't creating out of fear. I was like thinking, okay, I gotta just do this and do it the way I want to do it, rather than thinking, oh man, I hope it's good or not good. That inhibits your creativity. So I just hope to continue to get better, but not let because Gook, I think it's a good film. I like it, but it won't have any effect. I'll try to consciously not let it affect how I make my next film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a story to tell, and this is your story.
Yeah, and it's just got to be honest to that particular story. You can't let it all. As an artist, it bleeds together, but you don't want to take elements because it worked in the last film and put it in, arbitrarily put it in your new film. So. Okay,
so last question. Gook is in black and white, and filming in black and white is more than just taking color away. Yeah. What was the reason to go black and white? And then was there a philosophy in the way you shot the film?
Absolutely. So the biggest influence for this film is Eli and Daniel, and there's a lot of parallels between themes. That's a French film from the early 90s as well, and it's in black and white. Some of the camera techniques that I didn't try to mimic in terms of camera techniques. That where you push in and you zoom out, that really cool effect?
Yeah.
They do it the best in that film. It's the most effective because they just get to Paris, and this film is something that made Vincent Cassel famous. That's what the film that put him on the map. Mm-hmm. So it's such a dynamic film, and they do so many cool things with the camera. But because it's black and white, you really focus on what he's doing with the camera because you're not distracted by, the glitz of what color a color palette can do. But for the philosophy of this film, it's just about simplicity. We're moving the camera a lot, but because it's black and white, you're really focused on the characters. And just a real quick because I know you got to go, but a quick story that's really funny is I met with my DP Auntie Chang, and he's really talented, and I had worked with him on some experimental stuff, so that's how I found him. But I had said, yeah, I want this, here's some comps, which is like La N and Ida and all these things that I thought, Coffee in Berlin, those black and white, and then he the first day we met up, he brought comps of Schindler's List. And I was like, what? I was like, dude, but it made sense because he basically comp is a comparable, right? And he just was like, yeah, this is how you can shape the light. Mm-hmm. We can use really harsh lighting and bring attention to this area with the light. So it was really interesting and fun to be able to tell the film through black and white.
Yeah, I mean, we can't go into it, but there are a lot of interesting shots you have, and I noticed a lot of the interiors. You had a lot of harsh but diffused light going on.
Yeah, we had a lot of smoke, and it was really annoying because a lot of times we're waiting for the smoke to diffuse, and and it's another thing is because you're not dealing with color, and it's such a sort of verite, neorealistic film. You don't want to use too much artificial light. Mm-hmm. So the position of the sun was extremely important, and being an indie film, trying to shoot according to where the sun is
you have one shot.
It's a nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right.